best player in the world just got schooled by his own student. For years, Alperen Şengün has been called Baby Jokic, a talented young center trying to fill the massive shoes of the three-time NBA MVP.
To Sengun! And he knocks over Samudurov!
But on September 3rd, 2025, in front of a packed arena in Latvia, the student became the master. Turkey shocked Serbia 95-90, and Şengün didn't just outplay Nikola Jokic, he dominated him. 28 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists. Meanwhile, the best player on the planet, 22 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and a loss that nobody saw coming. But this wasn't just about one game. This was about respect, legacy, and the moment a young Turkish star announced to the world that he's no longer living in anyone's shadow. To understand why this game was so significant, you need to understand what was at stake. EuroBasket 2025 wasn't just another international tournament. It was a showcase of European basketball at its finest, with NBA superstars representing their home countries. Serbia entered this tournament as heavy favorites, led by Nikola Jokic, the reigning NBA Finals MVP and three-time regular season MVP. They were expected to cruise through Group A and make a deep tournament run. Jokic had been dominant throughout his NBA career, revolutionizing the center position with his passing, basketball IQ, and clutch performances. He was widely considered the best player in the world, and rightfully so. On the other side was Turkey, led by 22-year-old Alperen Şengün. The Houston Rockets center had just completed his breakout NBA season, averaging 21.1 points and 9.3 rebounds while earning his first All-Star selection. But despite his success, Şengün couldn't escape the comparisons. Baby Jokic, they called him. The similarities were undeniable. Both were skilled, passing big men with soft touches and high basketball IQs. But being compared to greatness can be both a blessing and a curse. This EuroBasket matchup represented more than just a group stage name. It was Şengün's chance to step out of Jokic's shadow and prove he belonged in the conversation with the world's elite players. The atmosphere in Riga was electric. Basketball fans across Europe had circled this game on their calendars the moment the groups were announced. Serbia versus Turkey, Jokic versus Şengün, master versus student. For Turkey, this game meant everything. They hadn't reached a EuroBasket semifinal since 2001, and that tournament was played on home soil. This was their chance to make history on foreign ground, but they'd have to go through the tournament favorites to do it. Serbia, meanwhile, was dealing with their own pressure. After disappointing early exits in recent international competitions, they needed to prove that Jokic's NBA dominance could translate to FIBA success. The pre-game narratives were clear. Could Şengün handle the pressure of facing his idol? Would Jokic's experience and championship pedigree be too much for the young Turk? But as both teams took the court for tip-off, something felt different. Şengün wasn't showing the nervousness you might expect from a 22-year-old, facing the best player in the world. Instead, he looked focused, determined, and ready to make a statement. The stage was set for what would become one of the most memorable individual performances in EuroBasket history. From the opening tip, it was clear this wouldn't be the blowout many expected. Turkey came out aggressive, pressing full court and forcing Serbia into uncomfortable positions. Şengün immediately established himself in the post, using his size and skill to create problems for Serbia's defense. On the first possession where he touched the ball, he showed why he's become one of the NBA's most versatile big men. Alperen gets it, goes back up and makes it, the announcer called out, and you could sense something special brewing. But this was Nikola Jokic we're talking about. The three-time MVP wasn't going to be intimidated by anyone, regardless of age or reputation. He answered back with his signature turnaround jumper, showing the footwork and touch that has made him unstoppable at every level. For the first few minutes, it felt like a chess match between two masters of the position. Jokic would score, Şengün would answer. The crowd was witnessing something special, a passing of the torch moment that neither player was willing to concede. But then, Şengün did something that caught everyone off guard. With Serbia sagging off him, expecting him to drive or pass, The young Turk pulled up from three-point range. Swish! The arena erupted. This wasn't the baby Jokic who was limited to post play and passing. This was a complete player who had added new dimensions to his game. By the end of the first quarter, Turkey held a surprising 26-24 lead. More importantly, Şengün had matched Jokic shot for shot, showing no signs of being overwhelmed by the moment. The second quarter was where Şengün truly announced himself on the international stage. While Jokic was getting his usual production, Şengün was doing something extraordinary. He was outplaying the best player in the world. His passing was on full display, threading needles and finding teammates in positions that seemed impossible. One particular sequence stood out, a behind-the-back pass to a cutting teammate that had the crowd on its feet. Are you kidding me? What a pass! The announcers couldn't contain their excitement, and neither could the Turkish fans in attendance. But it wasn't just the flashy plays. Şengün was doing the little things that championship teams require. He was boxing out Jokic on the defensive glass, switching on to smaller players and staying in front of them, and most importantly, he was making shots. His three-point shooting was particularly impressive. After years of being criticized for his outside shot, Şengün was knocking down threes with confidence and precision. Each make seemed to deflate Serbia's defense a little more. Meanwhile, Jokic was starting to show signs of frustration. The Serbian offense, which typically flowed through him like a symphony, was becoming disjointed. Turkey's aggressive defense was forcing him into difficult shots and limiting his playmaking opportunities. By halftime, Turkey had extended their lead to 57-31. The scoreboard told the story, but the individual matchup was even more telling. Şengün had 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. Jokic had 12 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. The student was schooling the master, and the basketball world was taking notice. If there's one thing you learn about champions, it's that they never go down without a fight. Jokic came out of halftime with a different energy, determined to assert his dominance and get Serbia back in the game. He began attacking the rim with more force, using his size and strength to overpower Turkey's interior defense. His passing became more aggressive too, finding teammates for easy baskets and getting Serbia's offense flowing again. For a moment, it looked like the inevitable Jokic takeover was beginning. Serbia cut the lead to single digits, and the momentum seemed to be shifting, but Şengün had an answer for everything. When Jokic scored in the post, Şengün responded with a three. When Jokic found teammates for easy baskets, Şengün created his own assists with spectacular passes. The most impressive aspect of Şengün's performance wasn't just his individual statistics, it was his composure. Here was a 22-year-old playing in the biggest game of his international career against the best player in the world, and he looked completely unfazed. One particular sequence in the third quarter perfectly encapsulated the night. Jokic had just scored on a beautiful post move, cutting Turkey's lead to 8 points. The Serbian bench was energized, their fans were loud, and momentum was clearly shifting. Şengün took the inbound pass, dribbled up court, and without hesitation, pulled up from 28 feet for a three-pointer. As the ball left his hands, the arena held its breath. Swish! The dagger. The lead was back to 11, and Serbia's momentum was completely deflated. By the end of the third quarter, Turkey maintained their double-digit lead, and Şengün had firmly established himself as the best player on the court. The fourth quarter of any close international game is where legends are made. With everything on the line, both Şengün and Jokic knew this was their moment to define the game's outcome. Serbia made one final push, cutting the lead to 6 points with 4 minutes remaining. The pressure was mounting, and this was exactly the situation where experience typically trumps youth. But Şengün wasn't just any young player, he was a player who had already proven himself in the NBA's most pressure-packed moments. When Turkey needed a basket, he delivered. When they needed a stop, he was there. The defining moment came with 2 minutes left. Serbia had cut the lead to 4, and they had possession with a chance to make it a one-possession game. Jokic received the ball in the post, exactly where he wanted it, with Şengün defending. This was it, the moment that would define the game. Jokic made his move, using his signature footwork to create space, but Şengün was ready. He stayed disciplined, forced a difficult shot, and secured the rebound. On the other end, Şengün calmly knocked down 2 free throws to extend the lead back to 6. The game was effectively over, but the statement had been made much earlier. As the final buzzer sounded, Turkey had completed one of the biggest upsets in EuroBasket history. But more than that, Alperen Şengün had announced himself as a legitimate superstar on the international stage. The numbers told the story of complete dominance. Şengün finished with 28 points on 58.8% shooting, 13 rebounds, and 8 assists. He had shot 4 of 7 from three-point range, a career high in any FIBA competition. Jokic, meanwhile, had 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists. Solid numbers for most players, but underwhelming for someone of his caliber in such a crucial game. But the most telling statistic wasn't in the box score, it was the efficiency rating. Şengün 37, Jokic 31. In the most important game of the tournament so far, the student had outperformed the master in every meaningful category. The basketball world reacted immediately. Social media exploded with highlights and reactions. Analysts who had dismissed Şengün as merely a baby Jokic were forced to reconsider their evaluations. Shane Larkin, Şengün's teammate, perfectly captured the moment. The baby Jokic nickname doesn't fit anymore. He's much bigger and much better than when that label was first given to him. Even in victory, Şengün showed the class what separates great players from good ones. When asked about outplaying the best player in the world, he responded with humility. Jokic is the best player in the world. Playing against him and getting this win was very important for us. I'm also happy that I put on a good performance against him. This wasn't arrogance or disrespect. It was a young star showing the maturity that champions possess. He understood the magnitude of what he had accomplished, while still respecting the player who had inspired his development. The night of September 3rd, 2025 will be remembered as a turning point in international basketball. It was the night Alperen Şengün stepped out of Nikola Jokic's shadow and established himself as a force in his own right. This performance represented more than just one great game. It was validation of Şengün's growth from a promising rookie to an NBA All-Star to now a legitimate international superstar. The Turkish center had become the first player in over 30 years to combine for 150-plus points, 50-plus rebounds, and 50-plus assists in a single EuroBasket tournament. For Turkey, this victory secured first place in Group A and their first EuroBasket semifinal appearance since 2001. And their first ever on foreign soil. But the implications went far beyond tournament seeding. The basketball world had witnessed the emergence of a new superstar. No longer would Şengün be defined by comparisons to others. He had carved out his own identity, his own legacy, and his own place among the game's elite. As for Jokic, this loss served as a reminder that in basketball, as in life, the torch eventually gets passed. The 3-time MVP remains one of the greatest players of his generation, but on this night, he was outplayed by someone who had learned from his example and built upon it. The student had become the master, not by diminishing his teacher, but by elevating his own game to unprecedented heights. And in doing so, Alperen Şengün proved that sometimes the greatest tribute to your idol isn't imitation, it's surpassing them when it matters most. The baby Jokic era was officially over. The Alperen Şengün era had begun. If you enjoyed this breakdown of one of the greatest individual performances in EuroBasket history, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth basketball analysis. What did you think of Şengün's performance? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to check out our breakdown of the next big NBA storyline by clicking the video on your screen right now.